that is already in us, but it's just been covered up. It is a fucking psyop. It's the greatest psyop in human history. Once you study history and you get back and take a really zoomed out look at the world and the history of the world and how these institutions, systems, and establishments, these governments, education, everything mainstream is built, you start to understand it's built to keep us from realizing who the fuck we truly are. Welcome back. Thanks for coming. Thank you, anyone out there still watching. I know this channel doesn't get many views so far, but you know what? That's more motivation to just keep making these videos and keep reaching out there. Because I know there's people that care, and I know there's people that want to hear this and don't exactly know where to start. So that's kind of what we're doing today. Where did I start? How did I start? Well, that goes back many decades, but more recently, what I've dived into is all of these texts here. And it's a lot. This is a shitload of reading. There's a lot going on here. But I kind of want to start with a ironic story. You know, me and my girlfriend have been living together for over 3 years now. In that time, obviously, I've been watching YouTube videos and other things, spiritually oriented. You know, you kind of start to take on certain teachings and memorize certain things, and a little bit of practice is involved there. But, you know, ultimately, you're kind of just feeding the ego and the little dopamine hit. I'm watching a spiritual YouTube video. I feel good about myself. Not actually doing the work. It's kind of like school. Like you just go to class and learn a bunch of bullshit you can regurgitate to sound impressive to your spiritual friends or whatever. That's not actually doing the work. Now, reading takes a little more intention and focus and time and attention, obviously. This is, you know, more, actually, this is like 6 months, but this one I read over the last year. But everything else, and I'm not completely done with all a few of these, but I've read completely through most of these. That's a lot of focus. That's a lot of intention. You have to want to read these books. But yeah, these are the books my girlfriend had. And for 3 years, they were right under my nose, just sitting in a cupboard in the house somewhere. And obviously, I would glance at them. Hey, what's this about? What's this about? But not actually read them. You know, they're always right under my nose until I actually made a decision to start reading them. This information was just sitting there right under my nose the entire time. Now, that's the first ironic part. The second ironic part is after reading these books, all of them, just pointed directly at me and told me to take a look at something that's right under my nose. Go inside myself. Go inside my heart. It's right under your nose. Now, obviously, in this world, with all the programming we grow up with over decades, the illusions, the delusions, the fear, the insecurity, the doubt, this seemingly really defined structure of how we perceive the world and how we perceive ourselves. that needs to be broken down. And that shit doesn't happen overnight. And it's a process. Like I've said, this process is going on for me for years, but I made a decision more recently to actually start doing the work. You can read all these and still not do the work. You can read all these and, again, just feed the ego, feed that dopamine hit and go impress all your spiritual friends or whatever. Memorizing information just so you sound intellectual. The point of these books, like I said, is to guide you into yourself. That is the point. That is why it's ironic. This was right under my nose, and then once I read them, they told me to take a look at something that's right under my fucking nose. My heart. So, if you're not willing to actually do the shadow work, actually sit with your fears, your emotions, actually take a look at what you might regret from the past and go relive that experience and sit with it and really try to understand why you are the way you are, then reading these doesn't do shit. Neither does watching a fucking YouTube video. There's nothing more potent and powerful than lived experience. Doesn't matter how much intellectual knowledge you have and how seemingly cool you might appear out there and how smart you look or how open-minded you might look and how chill you are, but that's just an identity you portray for yourself, your ego, or the people around you if you're not actually doing the work. So these books are a guide. That is it, to help us remember. I do believe with all the programming we take on in our lives in this modern day age, all the bullshit that we are bombarded with, it's kind of necessary to start learning the actual context of this knowledge that has been around for thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, since humanity began. Like, before there were any books written, this knowledge, which is in all of us, inherent within all of us, it is given to all of us. Not a single one of us on planet Earth does not have this knowledge inherently within us. Before a single book was written, someone had to remember this knowledge and then write it down in a book, like Tao Te Ching. This was written 2,500 years ago. Before that, I'm sure there were certain texts around the world like that, but, you know, at a certain point, someone had to start writing these books. Someone had to start relaying this knowledge and writing it down. And where did that knowledge come from? Well, it came from inside. We all have it. It's always been there. This modern day and age, we have to remove the veil and begin remembering. And the best way to remember, not learn, this isn't learned knowledge. This is all remembering. And the best way to do that, is reading a book. Because if you're going to try to cover the context of even just something this small on a YouTube video, even a book this small would take fucking 10 hours just to cover the context of what they're trying to say here. So I do think it is absolutely essential, especially if you haven't had any experience with this kind of information before, because you're so covered up in this modern world with illusion and subconscious programming and fear and doubt and insecurity and all the insane delusional bullshit that is programmed onto you from basically day one. You have to break that down, and there's multiple ways to do that, but we all have access to the internet. You find these on the internet or a library. We all have access to this information to start breaking down our blockages, our ways of thinking, our subconscious programs. Now, I'm not going to sit here and explain every single one of these books to you. I will leave them in the description, but hey, we're all on our own spiritual journey here, so mine's not going to look like yours. These are the books, especially these, that were right under my nose the entire time. These are the books that just came into my life, that were just there waiting for me, literally. And then since these, I picked up these, and they're all saying the same thing. They're all pointing in the same direction. That's what's so interesting about all this context. The Bible, this book on this is a manifestation book, Neville Goddard. This is also a manifestation book. Eckhart Tolley. This one down here, A Course in Miracles. Tao Te Ching. The Book of the Hopi. They're all pointing in the same direction. They're all saying the same thing. Yeah, whole shitload of context. They're all trying to explain something from their own experiences, from their culture, from their life. But they're all basically aligning with the same ideas. And that is, we are divine, conscious beings connected to the collective consciousness of the universe, of which you would call God. God is present everywhere, at all times, in everything. We are a fractal of God, all of us. And these are all basically saying that. And on top of that, we all have more power and capability than what we are taught growing up in this modern day world. That is why the world is the way it is. It's because they know exactly how powerful every single one of us is. And when I say powerful, it's not directed in a violent way or a strong way. But our consciousness, our imagination, our creativity, what we are capable of creating, and what we are capable of becoming ourselves is infinitely powerful. But the only way to do that and figure that out and learn that is by removing all of the bullshit that has contracted us and kept us away from this type of knowledge that is already in us, but it's just been covered up. It is a fucking psyop. It's the greatest psyop in human history. Once you study history and you get back and take a really zoomed out look at the world and the history of the world and how these institutions, systems, and establishments, these governments, education, everything mainstream is built, you start to understand it's built to keep us from realizing who the fuck we truly are. Once you remove all that shit, you begin the process of understanding who the fuck you truly are and who you can truly become, being your true, authentic, genuine, powerful self. So, that is the point of books. There's a lot more context. It takes a lot more intention and focus and attention and time. But these are a guide to allow you to remember what you have forgotten. That is inherent in all of us through history since humanity began. So, I'll leave these in the description below. Just wanted to keep this one a little bit shorter today, but thanks all of you for watching, and I'll see you again real soon.